Hey guys, welcome back. If you haven't been following along, we've been working on getting this torque box ready to be installed on the car, and today is the day. Stay tuned. All right guys, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take the torque box and we're gonna set it up here, and then we're gonna go ahead and mark all of the areas that need plug welded, and we're going to remove some of this epoxy primer and spray those areas with weld-through primer on both the floor pan and the torque box. So let's go ahead and do that. All right guys, so you can see where kind of just traced around all the marks here. Got them here, and they're up here as well, but you won't be able to see those. So now we're gonna go ahead and grind some of these down, just get the epoxy off of there, and then that'll give us a nice place to spray some weld-through primer. All right guys, so we got weld-through primer on all the areas that are gonna be plug welded. If you don't want to get weld-through primer everywhere, you can cut a square into a piece of cardboard like this. You can cut whatever shape you want, and then you can hold that over as you spray your weld-through primer. It doesn't bother me to get paint all over this because you're never gonna see it, and then once I put the final coat on the underside of the car, it'll take care of anything that you can see. Over here, I just kind of went down the side, you know, and we got a little bit of overspray, but again, this is all going to be hidden, so it's really not a big deal to me. What you don't want to do is get weld-through primer all over areas that you're trying to sand and everything, because it's just going to make more work for yourself. So in that case, then I recommend doing this here, where you take the cardboard and just kind of spray to it. So here is the torque box ready to go, and over here we have the car ready to go. So up here, I just kind of took the can of weld-through primer and got that top edge, the whole thing. Again, not worried about getting weld-through primer on any of the areas here. Down here, I did want to use the cardboard because I didn't want to get weld-through primer all the way down into here, because I do plan on scuffing all of this and spraying it with some kind of bed liner type material or something else once we get these torque boxes repaired. So we're going to go ahead and let this dry, and then we are going to be ready to install the torque box. All right guys, so I got the torque box in and nice and tight here. To do that, I ran a bolt through this seatbelt bracket and put a big washer on the other side, and then just tightened it up. So this pulled this in real nice, and it looks good. Also, we're nice and tight up around here, and then it starts coming out back this way. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and put these plug welds in that are tight, and then I'm going to have to come over here because I got a large gap here. It's coming out like a 1/4 inch, and it's the same way all the way around. So you can see there I got that gap. So the torque box doesn't fit good, right? I've done a lot of modifications this to begin with to make it fit, and now I think I'm just going to have to force it into place. So we'll get this going and get these plug welded, and then I might have to run another bolt through maybe here or here. We'll figure it out. Maybe even in here, get some big washers and try to pull that tight. I don't think there's anywhere else for this to go. So this is pulled in tight. It can't really go up or down because it's tight up along the flange here. And my measurements line up. I got basically 1 3/4 inches here like I was looking for. And from this frame rail to this hole, I got 17 inches, which is what I'm looking for too. I'm just hesitating to commit to this. It's an important part, but you know, at some point you just got to do it. So, all right guys, so let's go ahead and commit to these 4. Let's get them plug welded in. And then after we get that in, we'll figure out how to pull this nice and tight to the floor pan. Let's do it. All right guys, so we got these areas all plug welded in. So this is gonna stay nice and secure right here. So now I gotta figure out how to suck this into the floor pan to make it nice and tight. So I don't think regular sheet metal screws are gonna work, at least the ones I have. They just don't have wide enough heads or washers on them. So what I'm gonna do is take a bolt right through here and see how that does. I don't think it's gonna pull this area in here, so I'm gonna have to find another way to do this. Probably a bolt over here as well. I think here might just bend this area in. So worst case is I might have to drive something through here with a big plate or something like that, and then a plate on the other side to pull it in. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and put a bolt and a washer through here and pull that in and see how that goes. All right guys, so I started down here, I drilled a hole through here and I was gonna put a bolt through here, but what I realized is when you look straight on with this piece, it's kind of coming, the side is coming out, so it needs pushed in. And what was happening when I pushed that in with just clamping vice grips around here was that it was raising this up. So I want to tackle this side first, so I ended up putting a bolt through here, and what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just run a bead of weld down this area here. This lines up pretty much like it does down below. So I'm happy with this here, and I gotta adjust this piece a little bit, but I'm gonna do that after I get this welded in so that I don't push this in any further. Go ahead and weld this in, and then we'll be back. All right guys, so we got this welded in. This one went nice and easy. This one had a little bit of burn through just because the gap was a little larger. No big deal, we'll clean it up. So what I'm gonna do now is take the vice grips and try to suck this in and see what happens here, see what it pushes out, you know, all that kind of stuff. If it pushes this area out, we'll have to come back to this and do these areas first. So let's go ahead and see what happens. All right guys, quick update. So we got all this welded in, we got that plug welded, and we got these two plug welded. I put a bolt through here to pull that nice and tight. This one's still out a little bit, but we'll get that soon. What I'm focusing on now is this area under here. So when I put this bolt in, it took this from like a 1/4 inch down to 1/8, and then I just threw this bolt through, and now we're good to go for this hole and this hole. So let's go ahead and get these two holes plugged up, and then we'll remove the bolt and plug that one. And then last, we'll take care of this one over here. This is sort of on the edge of the seat pan where it curves around, so we'll have to just hammer that down as close as we can and plug weld that shut. Over here, I have these vice grips holding this end tight. It was kind of coming out a little bit. We want this nice and straight through here so that when you look straight on with this, you don't see this piece hanging out, because that's how the original pieces were. So let's go ahead and plug weld these two, and then we'll come back and see what's next. All right guys, so we got all of the plug welds in on the flat areas except for up here. I'm gonna hold off for a second, and you can see we got all this in pretty good. So we're looking good there, and this piece is looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and test fit my frame rail piece real quick. And what I'm gonna do now is start working my way around the flange. This is gonna be interesting because it's kind of tight to get in there. I tried when I was fitting this up to get this thing to sit flat on all sides, and it just wouldn't do it. I don't know if the torque box is messed up or if I messed something up here, but I checked, and the pocket that the leaf spring sits in has some play in it, so we can adjust it however we need to a little bit. So I'm not worried about any of this. This is going to function just as the original, and you know, there's no more rust anymore. It's nice and solid. The plug welds are holding up great. So I'm very confident in this. We'll have to figure something out how to get this flange nice and tight up against the rocker panel here. Might have to put some heat to it, but we'll see. So yeah, let's go ahead and get some of this flange welded in place. And all I'm gonna do here is just use vice grips to kind of pull this together. Then once we get back here, we'll have to get creative. But I'm holding off on this right now so that if I do need to pull this in a little bit, if this can stretch or whatever, then we'll let it do that. And here we got the frame rail made up. And if you remember, I made this frame rail off of the original, so the holes are lining up really good. If you look down under here, everything's looking pretty good. So we'll pinch this nice and tight once we get in there and get all that in place. We got a little bit more work to do, but really happy with this. I am excited to get this stuff done. All right, guys, we got the flange welded in to the inner rocker panel here the whole way across. So you can see that's turned out okay. And this was a little bit challenging in here because you can't get vice grips to pinch any of this metal together. So what I ended up doing in this area all the way over and even over here is that I used MAP gas with a torch head on it and basically heated up the area, and then used the door skin hammer to get in here and get this metal as close as I could. So that worked out pretty well. Ideally, you'd be able to, get vice grips in there or sheet metal screws or something, but it's such a tight area that I couldn't get in there. So if you guys got any tips for getting into those areas, let me know in the comments below. Now, I got all the welds ground down and smoothed out pretty good. I'm not gonna get too carried away with these. It's gonna be under the car, covered up pretty well with the undercoating and all that. So we are pretty much good to go. You can take a look down here. That's all turned out really nice. And if you kind of get right on with it, you can see how nice and straight that is. You don't see the side coming out at all. So it turned out really good. Pretty happy with it, and definitely glad that I put this piece in. There's one weld I couldn't get to grind it down yet. So I'm thinking I need to get one of those little mini belt sanders for stuff like this. I think that would work out really well. So I might have to order one of those. For now, we'll go ahead and let that alone, and we'll get it soon enough. All right, we'll do one final fit of the frame rail piece, just make sure it's good. So I'm pretty happy with that too. The holes lined up really good, and I think that's gonna be a good fit. All right, guys, if you want to see me install this frame rail and repair this piece here, consider subscribing, because we're going to do that in the next video. We'll see you in the next one.